What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step. Now, welcome to a special live stream for the college football on Fox kickoff times that have just come out. Instant reaction for you. So check it out. We are going to start September 2nd. We're going to go to September 4th. We're going to go through September 11th, the 18th, the 25th, the 27th. Oh, man, November 27th, December 4th. Man, look, I have not even seen these, right? I saw this come out on CFB on Fox's Twitter account, and I was like, yo, this is what I'm here for. This is why I am so fired up. And these are the kinds of things that I really, really love to talk about. So, check it. Let's go through the big games, talk about what Big Noon Kickoff is doing, because they're definitely going to be on the road, as are Charlotte Wilder and Mark Titus, who are going to take the People Sports Podcast on the road to do a college football digital road show. That ought to be a lot of fun because they are an awesome hang. And, you know, I will be over here holding it down for you on the #1 ranked show and across the Fox platforms as it goes. But as we build toward a real media days, right, and training camp, I'm so excited for this. I'm all over the moon. So check it. This is out of the press release coming from Fox Sports. This fall, Saturdays start stronger than ever as Fox Sports today announces select games from its 2021 college football schedule featuring top games from the Big 12, Big 10, Mountain West, and Pac-12 conferences, right? And this means that you're going to get a lot of Big Noon, which kicks off at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to feature Brady Quinn, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, host Rob Stone, and yes, Bob Stoops, who, if you are brand new to the channel, did a really cool and long-form interview with us on the #1 ranked show. It's on the channel. It's wherever it is you get your podcast. It's on the Fox Sports app. I encourage you to go check that out. Gus, Joel, and Jenny are going to be back. And this is such a big deal for all of us because we're finally going to get back to what feels like normalcy now that we got people getting out there, getting this vaccine, understanding what is in front of them and understanding what we need to do. It's been a long time coming. So week 2 is going to be the big one, right? That's Big Noon Kickoff, Oregon at Ohio State. That's at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with, you know, Big Noon Kickoff and whatnot. So I think that that's perhaps the big one for a lot of people. I wish that OU Nebraska was up there. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit. But I also want to shout out to the rest of y'all. If you are in the chat, say hi, because this is one of the things that I really enjoy doing. It's interactive as all get out, and you know how much I like it. Also, comment on the lighting situation going on here, you know, because, I'm having a good time with it. I obviously, I'm having a good time with it because I'm out here putting it out. But I also think that when we talk about my lighting, you're talking about how I came up. So, oh, my goodness, man. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go through. Man, yeah, I'm getting all the emails because everybody's announcing their kickoff games. Goodness me. This is a lot of fun. So Northwestern opens its conference matchup on Friday, September 3rd versus Michigan State at 7 o'clock. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's a late night kickoff for the Big Ten. Wildcats coming off of course, playing in the Big Ten championship game, pushing eventual national title runner-up Ohio State to the brink. It's going to be a lot of fun. Northwestern plays Michigan State, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the 4-letter network. Northwestern versus Indiana State is on the Big Ten network. Northwestern versus Duke is on the ACC network, so forth, so on. And I think we're going to get Northwestern versus Rutgers for homecoming, but we'll see what all entails there. Okay, so let me go ahead and take a look at this right quick. All right, September 2nd, Ohio State plays Minnesota on Big Fox. That is at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do the math, you'll get your Pacific. Ohio State versus Minnesota is highly anticipated for me because that's going to be the big game to start the weekend of what is going to be an outstanding Labor Day weekend slate of games, including Clemson, Georgia, which is the 7 o'clock game on Saturday. We get Ole Miss, Louisville on that Monday of Labor Day, and I think we get Notre Dame, Florida State on a Sunday. So that's already going to be a lot of fun. Also in there, you got to talk about Muhammad Ibrahim, who's coming back as, I think, the best running back in the Big Ten, bar none. I mean, that dude was a monster They fed him the rock. He was able to carry the load. Tanner Morgan did not look like the Tanner Morgan that we'd seen in 2019, even with Rashad Bateman back. But you can understand how Rashad Bateman and quite frankly, Tyler Johnson were such a big deal for his success in 2019. And then in 2020, Rashad Bateman, like other folks who had opted out, opted in, and we're going on from there, right? So I think that we're going to see Mohamed Ibrahim really try to carry the load against a revamped Ohio State defense. Because, yeah, you return at Haskell Garrett. Zach Harrison might come on, right? We'll see what Tyreek is about. But you're going to replace all four of those linebackers. And I think this is the time when we're looking at a guy like Taraji Mitchell and going, okay, time for you to step up and play a little bit. To say nothing of the back end, right? I wish that Minnesota could give us a really good look offensively with that pass attack that is non-existent right now, going after the Ohio State secondary, because that was the weak link of that team last year. Michael Penix Jr. straight up went at him for damn near 500 through the air, right? And Ty Freifogel was having his way out there. If not for Sean Wade in the pick six, we might be talking about Indiana having won that game, especially knowing that you're going to ask Sevyn Banks to really step up and play. You're going to ask Cam Martinez to do the same. I think Josh Proctor's going to be fine over the top. We'll see who's playing that safety position, that bullet position. There's rumor about Ja'Kalen Johnson and what he might mean. Latham Ransom ought to be a dude that comes through over there. We're going to have many opportunities to talk about Ohio State. I don't know that we're going to have many opportunities to talk about Minnesota, but I think Mohamed Ibrahim is going to have a lot to say about that. Then on September 4th, we get Penn State versus Wisconsin. That is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Penn State is breaking in a new offense coordinator for a second straight year in Mike Yurcich. Mike Yurcich is trying to try to show us that Sean Clifford knows how to really do this. We're also got to talk about it from the standpoint that Penn State lost everybody, like everybody at running back, okay? I love Noah Cain, and I really like Jeremy Brown, and I'm sad that he had to retire from football, but Noah Cain ought to be the dude carrying the load for them, and we'll see. I mean, they got some dudes at wide receiver. It's just, can Sean Clifford get him the ball, right? And then on the other side, you're replacing Jason Owe and Micah Parsons. That's no small feat. In addition to Pat Freiermuth, who was playing tight end for you, against a Wisconsin team that I think now that COVID is over, we get to see what they're actually made of. Because Graham Mertz looked like the dude. I mean, he dropped the Mayo trophy, but outside of that, he looked okay. It's about tailback for me. Because Wisconsin's going to run the ball and play defense. And they want to have the one back there. And I think that's going to be Jalen Berger. And I think perhaps we're looking at a 1,500-yard back. But if he's an 1,800-yard back, they're playing in the Big Ten Championship and might actually push whoever comes out of the East, probably Ohio State, in that Big Ten title game the way that Northwestern pushed them last year. And then there's Jim Leonard calling the defense. Like, Jim Leonard is one of those defensive coordinators that I expect to get a head coaching job anytime he wants one. Not unlike Alex Drench at Oklahoma, not unlike Brent Venables at Clemson. Like, you can keep going. Dan Lanning over there at Georgia, that dude's got a shot, okay? Then we're talking about September 4th at 7:30 up against Clemson, Georgia, UCLA, and LSU. LSU traveling to UCLA. Of course, I'm bullish on the LSU Tigers this year because last year when I predicted they were going to have 5 losses because they were not experienced, even though they were talented. Now they're experienced and talented again. And depending on who you go with, Miles Brennan or Max Johnson, I really don't think it's going to matter that much, which is why I think Miles Brennan, the dude that's probably going to win your locker room, is the guy that you're going to end up with. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. You got Keyshawn Butte out there. You got Eric Gilbert, we think, still going to be in a Tiger uniform. That's going to be a big help to them. Derek Stingley Jr. is the best, like, seriously, the best boundary corner in college football today. He's going to be returning kicks. He's probably going to be playing a little wide receiver as well. He's going to wear the vaunted number 7 for them, which is the talisman number for LSU, like the number 10 for many soccer teams. He's the number 7 at LSU has a special significance over there, and he's going to wear that this year. You're also getting Mike Jones playing middle linebacker alongside Damon Clark. I just want to know that Durante Jones is the dude that can get you over the hump calling that defense, because his experiences they're going to beat. Like, you got Eli Ricks coming back too. You got 2 brand new coordinators, brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defensive coordinator, and you got Chip Kelly finally figuring it out at UCLA. So while, like, in January, I might have been like, I don't know about UCLA in this game. Now I'm looking at UCLA going, you got home field. You never played LSU. They got to travel out to Pasadena. And you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming back. Like, that dude was the dude at Bishop Gorman when he was over there. I think UCLA's got a shot here to upset what I think is going to start out as a top 25 LSU program. So keep your eye on that one. Of course, I know many people are going to have their eye on Clemson, Georgia, and I don't blame you at all. I'm going to keep my eyes on that too. So I'm going to have both screens going, and we're probably going to end up talking at length about both of those games on the number one ranked show. I hope I get to do instant reaction and rapid shows. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then September 11th, of course, talk about Ohio State, Oregon. For me, that's about the Oregon defense versus the Ohio State offense, because no matter who starts at quarterback for Ohio State, you're really talking about a brand new starting quarterback who's never thrown a pass in college football, whether it's C.J. Stroud, Kyle McCord, or Jack Miller. That's what you're talking about, right? Now, I think it says a lot that Ryan Day didn't go into the portal and get a quarterback because he feels really good about what they have. And then you got what is arguably the best wide receiver room in all of college football, even losing Jamison Williams to Alabama in the portal, right? Even losing Mookie Cooper to Missouri in the portal. You still got Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson leading the number one wide receiver in the 2020 class in Julian Fleming, the number one wide receiver in the 2021 class in Emeka Egbuka. And that's before we start talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, who, if you believe Texas high school football coaches, perhaps the most dynamic wide receiver that they have over there. And I haven't even talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. And I know there's a lot of people that are bullish on Luke Farrell and Jeremy Ruckert. Luke Farrell's playing in the NFL now. My bad, Luke. But I think Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, along with Mykale Wright and, my God, Dante Manning and Justin Flo and Noah Sewell, that is what I want to see. I want to see that defense up against this offense and see what it do. So now, there's a lot of folks that are down on Oregon at quarterback because their starter, Tyler Shuck, transfers to Texas Tech. I think that was more Anthony Brown showing up to show he could do the job and running off Tyler Shuck, to say nothing of Ty Thompson coming in there, right? I don't think Ty Thompson is ready to play right away. I mean, Mario Cristobal will be able to tell you. Joe Moorhead be able to tell you. But I think Anthony Brown did not stick around to back up a true freshman as a sixth-year grad transfer quarterback. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. And I think he has enough as the 11th guy to give Ohio State problems. Because if nothing else, Oregon is going to make you play 11 on 11 as opposed to 10 on 11 where that quarterback is not responsible for doing a lot. Then you got C.J. Verdell back there as well, right? And you went and did yourself a job on the recruiting trail in the 2021 class. So you're adding offensive talent to that. So I think that game is going to be really tight and really close. And I can't wait to see 100,000 people at the shoe come September 11th. All right. September 18th, Nebraska at Oklahoma. That is a big noon kickoff game. That is the one that OU and Nebraska fans have circled on. And we talk about the number one ranked show, or we talk about Nebraska on the number one ranked show on Monday, where I interviewed, I kid you not, Jim Ross. Talk a little OU football, talk a little Nebraska, get into his real come up as an Oklahoma fan. And we talk shop, right? We go back and forth about the strengths and weaknesses of the offense and defense. It's a really great conversation. But as a part of that show, I answer this question about Nebraska that I think is really interesting. But I also get into Nebraska's playing one of those games right now against Oklahoma that can flip its program, right? Like, you immediately become a contender if you can knock off Oklahoma in a year in which Oklahoma is supposed to play for a national championship. Like, it's a letdown if they don't make the playoff and don't win a game in the playoff, right? You could probably get away with national runner-up, but if you make it all the way to the championship, we expect you to win. That said, that's where they are. Nebraska still ain't where it wants to be, and it hasn't been there, my goodness, probably since 2009 when Ndamukong Suh was just destroying people and had his way with Texas. And really, if Nebraska beats Texas in that game, we're talking about perhaps the Mac Brown experience lasting longer at the University of Texas. Who can tell you? Who knows? But I think that's one that's really interesting to take a look at because Scott Frost really needs a big win. And Nebraska fans really, really, really want to get off the schneid here, right? They moved to the Big Ten West and nothing's gone their way. It's supposed to be the weaker division, and it is. They haven't shown up in it. You've seen Minnesota have some success. You've seen Iowa have some success. You've seen Wisconsin have some success. You've seen Northwestern have some success. We're still waiting on Nebraska to figure it out. I think that's going to start with quarterback. And then they got one of my favorite 2020 recruits at tailback is Xavier Morrison. For those of y'all that don't know, Xavier Morrison playing tailback in Nebraska just had his jersey retired at his high school, Tulsa Edison, like last week. His high school coach, Tony Daniels, I was actually his offensive coordinator for the freshman team at Memorial when he was coming up, and that's the best player he's ever had. He led Edison all-time in rush yards and rushing TDs. And that, they've had some dudes that come through there. Bill Goldberger being among them, along with, nobody has heard of Sean Baker Hughes but me, but anybody that saw Sean Baker Hughes play knows that that dude was one of the coldest tailbacks to come through Edison, and Xavier Morrison is that much better than he is. Like, Xavier had all the goods to be a National Gatorade Player of the Year. Maybe he gets some touches. I would hope so. Okay. Oklahoma, you know what it is. It's Spencer Rattler. It's Marvin Mims. It's, Kennedy Brooks, Eric Gray. Defensively, that is the story. Because defensively, Oklahoma has what it takes to be a top 10 defense for the first time in literally 10 years. I'm so excited about that because the 2017 and 2018 defenses, my goodness, man. Those of y'all that are OGs of the channel know that I was losing my mind. Now I don't do that anymore. Now it's Perion Winfrey. It's Isaiah Thomas from my alma mater, stand up Isaiah Thomas. It's Josh Ellison. It's Jalen Redmond. It's David Ugwebu. It's Deshaun White. You add Key Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? Get Pat Fields back. I think they're going to be okay. I'm excited about it. But I'll give you this. If Oklahoma doesn't beat Nebraska by 3-4 touchdowns, people are going to get worried about Oklahoma. And I can't say that they would be wrong because that Nebraska team ain't very good. But I'm telling you, if Nebraska was able to get that game, the story would not be that Nebraska is back. It would be that Oklahoma is not as good. And I don't think that's fair because that's a big game for a lot of people, myself included. So we'll see. We'll see. September 25th, we got Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Big noon on Fox. Yo. Okay, so that one could be a lot of fun because Jack Cohen was playing quarterback at Wisconsin, starting till Graham Mertz came in there. He has since transferred to Notre Dame. Now, Tyler Buchner might end up being the dude, but Notre Dame is going to be breaking in a new quarterback, and it could be the guy that was playing for Wisconsin. I'm excited about that because I love the bad blood games. I love those, right? Where you trading up dudes. That one is a lot of fun to me, okay? So, there's some layers to that. Also, you get to see Kyle Hamilton. No joke to you, Kyle Hamilton is the best safety in college football. It'll be I think the Thorpe Award comes down to Hamilton, Derek Stingley Jr., maybe Malachi Moore, Eli Ricks, but Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley's playing on the same team, and Brandon Joseph at Northwestern. There's some dudes out there playing DB right now, but Kyle Hamilton is one of those dudes that can start out playing in the box on the field side, see something going to the boundary, and make a play. There's some stuff out there that I need to actually put you on game with Twitter, in which you can see Kyle Hamilton's athleticism. But I really enjoy watching that dude play football. But it's really difficult to get people to pay attention to who a safety is. It just is. So focus on Kyron Williams then, right? Because that's going to be the guy that they're going to rely on as they're breaking in the new quarterback, as they are really trying to overhaul their program and prove to people that they can reload as opposed to build toward a national title contender once again, like they did last year. Okay, so there's a lot to watch there. But I think that game is going to have a lot to say about what we think of the Big Ten or the ACC, right? Not so much what we think of Notre Dame or Wisconsin, or even whether or not one of those teams is playing for a national title. There's other games that you need to pay attention to in there. But I'm excited about that one. November 27th, we get Ohio State, Michigan. We missed the game last year. I think it's the first time the game wasn't played since World War II, which sucked. But Ohio State, Michigan is one in which people plan their entire Thanksgivings around. It's November 27th. It's big noon on Fox. Hopefully, Michigan has figured out that it needs to probably play J.J. McCarthy. Here's the thing. When I talked with Jordan Palmer and TJ Houshmandzadeh when we did the Fox Sports draft party, they were bullish on Cade McNamara. And I kind of get it, because I watched Cade McNamara in a 3-overtime win against Rutgers, but I watched Cade McNamara in a 3-overtime win against Rutgers, and he wasn't the dude that they wanted out there. They wanted Joe Milton out there. So I can't buy into it just yet. And then add to that, they also, I love the way the transfer portal gives and takes, right? Because Tyler Shuck ends up at Texas Tech. Why does Tyler Shuck end up at Texas Tech, right? Because Texas Tech quarterback transferred to Michigan. So you got Alan Bowman, Texas Tech quarterback that transferred to Michigan, competing with J.J. McCarthy and others to try to get it done, right? To try to get over the hump that is Ohio State. Because outside of beating Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh has had a pretty doggone good run, but last year sucked. Last year was not good. But people were like, Jim Harbaugh's going to get fired or he's going to get a head coaching job in the NFL. Neither happened. Either because the job wasn't there and he didn't want it, or because he actually does want to win at Michigan. And Ward Manuel went out there and won a contract negotiation for Michigan. I mean, that's a really good contract for them. They're paying him basically half of what they were, but they will pay him what they were going to pay him and then some if he wins in the way that he expects to, which is to play for Big Ten championships, win Big Ten championships, and play for national championships, right? It means you got to beat Ohio State. Now, beating Ohio State does not mean you win the Big Ten championship, but it ain't going to hurt you none, right? It's like a quarterback with a 40-yard dash. It ain't going to hurt you none to have that, okay? You want it. And for Michigan fans, like, they're due. Ohio State has won this game for like the last 10 years straight. Like, it's not close in as far as the recent rivalry. And I did this thing a couple days ago where I ran down what Ohio State has basically been like since, 2005. And they've had just one, I'm not kidding you, one season in which they have not won at least 10 games since 2005, right? And I went with 2005 because before that they go 8-4. But you get to what I'm talking about here is that Ohio State is not only used to winning, they're used to winning by a lot, especially in the last 20 years, and that's through 3 head coaches: Tressel, Lou Fickell for the year, and then Urban Meyer. And then I get into this, another thing on the JR conversation, JR podcast of the number 1 ranked show of what happens if Ohio State doesn't suffer tattoo gate, which, I think you're going to be into and I think you're going to be interested in. And then December 4th, we have the Mountain West title game along with the Big Ten title game. So the Big Ten title game is going to be 7 o'clock on Fox Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. on Fox Eastern Time. All this as we continue to figure out, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and Chicago, Ohio State hosting Oregon, and Oklahoma hosting Nebraska. I'm excited about all of this stuff, and it's been a while since I did something like a live stream, so we're all getting used to this once again. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and center myself right quick. Yo, how long I've been talking when y'all let me not be centered? About 20 minutes? That's ridiculous. Let's see. Let's go through the chat, see who's in here, and see if we can have a good time. Okay, so Cameron Tarver, noon kickoffs are lit. I like them. Only people that hate noon kickoffs are the people that actually go to the games. That's just the long and the short of it. That's what it's always going to be. Those people are always going to think that those things suck. And the folks that, don't think that they're that much fun, I can't tell you not go to the games because you make the games better, but you're biting the bullet for all of us if you're going to the game at 11 a.m. Also, Saturday. Ooh, wow. Saturday, September 4th at 2:30 on Fox, we get Louisiana at Texas. This is one I have circled. This is one in which I think that every real college football fan is going to watch because this is Steve Sarkisian in year 1. This is perhaps Casey Thompson or Hudson Card in year 1. This is Pete Kwiatkowski in year 1. This is Louisiana being this close to winning the Sun Belt Championship in a year in which everybody was all over Coastal Carolina. So they lose that game by 2 to Coastal Carolina when they play in the regular season, but they had earned the right to play for the Sun Belt Championship later that year, and that game gets called off due to COVID. Then we're talking about Billy Napier being up for jobs that include Tennessee and Auburn, only to stay at Louisiana. Why? Because he's got 98% of his team returning, including his starting quarterback in Levi Lewis. Now, they lose Elijah Mitchell, who might actually be up there with Trey Sermon playing for the Niners come September. But they get back everybody on defense. So they know who they are, and they know what they're capable of. Remember, they knock off Iowa State last year, who played in the Big 12 championship game and won the Fiesta Bowl. So it ain't like this is going to be new to them. They know how to win these games. You got to go to Texas in a year in which Texas hired Steve Sarkisian to get them into national championship games, let alone win the Big 12 title, even though Oklahoma's won the last 6 in a row. So this is a big game for a lot of people. Billy Napier gets to stump. Basically, I'm going wherever I want to go if he beats Steve Sarkisian in year 1 in September 4th. It's a big game. It's a huge game. It's also the one in which you got to watch Bijan Robinson. Okay? Bijan Robinson is the best player in the country we're not talking about enough. That dude was a monster in the state of Arizona coming out of high school. He averaged 17.1 yards or 17.7 yards per carry coming out of high school. He's that good. Matter of fact, Arizona's produced some hitters here of late, man. Chuba Purdy, Brock Purdy, Jack Miller. My God. Spencer Rattler, Mark Andrews. I mentioned Bijan, Jake Smith. If you're Jed Fish or Herm Edwards, just rope off the state of Arizona. Don't let anybody leave, man. And y'all can put together a winner. And I'm so excited about that, man. I think that could be one of the all-time games. That's so much fun. That's going to be such a good time. I'm excited about that. Let me see who else is in the chat here. Let me see. Nate the Great's in the chat. Oh, you got the shaft for the times. No, I didn't, because that noon kickoff time is the prime time game now, right? That's the one. You want to play in that game because, check it, everybody's putting that in there because they are trying to feast on the television audience. People that are saying, I like noon kickoffs because they're lit, like Cameron Tarver. You are less likely to change your channel from the channel that you designated 11 a.m. throughout the day and Saturdays, right? That's what we've learned about college football fans. Y'all aren't really channel surfing like that. You usually put one game on, and then because you're probably watching a game that happened in your conference, you're much more likely to watch the next game that is happening in your conference, right? So, like, say OU Nebraska. Let's say the game after that is something like, I don't know, Baylor La Tech. I'm just pulling one out, right? You're much more likely to watch that because you're a Big 12 fan watching a Big 12 team, as opposed to flipping over to an SEC game, right? It's one of the reasons you're seeing some of these rights, I think, get streamlined into these networks, or at least one of the ways in which they sell them. So it's interesting to me. Let's see. Orb Gum is also saying, don't mind the early starts if watching on TV. Yeah, 100%. Nebraska ain't even close to where they want to be. Yeah, it's true. Like, because they ain't 95. They ain't even 97. Not playing for national titles. Will they expand the college football playoff this year? Negative. They will not expand it this year. As a matter of fact, I don't expect the college football playoff to be expanded until 2025 when the networks redo their TV deals with the conferences. Like the Big 12, the Big 10, I think they're going to try to talk about some stuff, though I think the Big 10 is in a partnership with Fox, so that's just what it is. And then we'll figure out what the Pac-12 is going to do because they just hired a new commissioner basically to help them handle their TV negotiations. So that'll be interesting. Like, a thought that I had that I think is a little inside baseball is, what if the Pac-12 goes to a streaming service? Netflix, Prime Video, Peacock, even Discovery, who is going to buy Warner Media, right? And we all know that Amazon is trying to buy MGM for MGM Entertainment for $8.5 billion. We'll see if the antitrust lawyers let that through. But all that stuff is in flux. And I think the playoff is going to come out of whatever the landscape looks like. We know what ESPN is going to do, right? We know that they have bought the SEC, right? The SEC was getting paid $50 million by CBS annually, which is highway robbery. And now that number's up to $300 million because what Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Florida have all done here in the last 15 years. That's how you increase the valuation of your conference. Also get into this on the JR podcast, the number one ranked show. What if Nick Saban went to Texas? Really interesting conversation, and I'm really proud of the effort that I put into answering that question, I think, well. Let's see. The problem with Oklahoma's defense this year isn't about as much of their competition, in my opinion. If they make it to the playoff, no way they've seen as physical of a team that they will see there. It's true, right? And that's a good argument because when they get to play Clemson, they got railroaded. First in the Sweatpants Bowl, then in 2015. When they play LSU, they got railroaded. When they played Alabama, they got railroaded. Like, that's a really good discussion, but it's like getting to the final boss. You know, like, you got to get there. And you don't have a whole lot of reps against the final boss. You know, like you probably take a couple L's before you are able to beat the final boss in whatever game it is you're playing. Like, I'm back on my Destiny 2 BS, and I'm not happy about it because I think of myself as a Titan, but I'm getting wrecked by hunters, and I'm getting wrecked by hunters with the doggone stasis. And the Crucible is just not a place where me and my wide shoulders and my big booty of a Titan is going to have a good time. So I'm having to level up a hunter. And I'm having to be like, get this stasis tornado grenade that's OP. I'm having to mess with shadow shot so I can be invisible and run up to people and shotgun them in the face. Like, I had to learn all that, right? And even doing that, when I go into the raid again, by the way, I'm a day one Destiny dude, so like I remember cheesing Atheon off the ledge. When I go into the Vault of Glass, we're probably going to die a couple of times when we get to Atheon, because there's a lot going on there with the puzzles, and there's a lot going on. You have to be in a position to take advantage of what you can, but also, like, if you don't have a dude on a plate, y'all all die. That's what Oklahoma's up against. Oklahoma's up against the final boss when they get to the playoff, and you don't get an opportunity to get reps against that final boss till you get there, right? And we're hoping that after going 0-3 in the playoff, Oklahoma will figure out what it's supposed to do once it gets there. I hope that made some sense. I think somebody got that, but it's not my best metaphor. Let's see, OU should still run the table in the Big 12. Same story, different year. It's true. Let's see. Nebraska ain't even close to what. Let me see. What's Leland got? I just went past Leland's question. Trying to find it, Leland. If I find it, I'll let you know. Is Fanatic Perspective in? Hey, is Steve in here? No, somebody was just mentioning Steve. Okay. Leland's Shanks. There we go. You be right, RJ. Can outscore everyone. We need to cool our jets and see how OU will play this year. I mean, it's hard because we all feel some kind of way about this being the squad. And I've been yelling about this being the squad for 3 years. This has been the squad. Like, this is the one that I thought was going to have the best chance to do it. Let's see. I want a top 8 in the playoffs. Give me 16. Give me 16. Give me the 10 automatic qualifiers who won their conference championships, and then let your committee pick up the other 6 and do the seeding. I hate that a boardroom gets to pick who plays in a playoff game. I want the scoreboard to do that. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to see. Somebody is talking about UAB. I'll tell you this, Bill Clark doing a job over there. Like, they managed to win Conference USA in a year in which I didn't think they were going to win Conference USA. Let's see what we got. Talk about who's going to get the starting job at OU. What are you talking about? Spencer Rattler's starting quarterback at Oklahoma. What are you actually insinuating? Why do I still have to answer questions about the 5-star backup competing with the 5-star starter who's been the starter? That makes no sense. Like, why do you want to usher the kid in there? What are you expecting? How do you think they get that much better with Caleb Williams at quarterback than Spencer Rattler? Especially with Rattler having the experience that he had of 2020. What? I swear, man, some people claiming to be OU fans don't even pay attention. Your memory of names is ridiculous. Anything you do special. No, dog. I constantly stay reading about this stuff, right? That is how I have become, I think, important to your experience in college football. Is if I didn't know how to remember that stuff, or I didn't read all that stuff, what use would I be to you? Quite honestly, I don't play the game. Never coached the game. I just love the game, and I've studied the game, and I've been reading the game for years. Like while other dudes were trying to get into, the NFL or go to camp circuits, I'm reading history books about college football, and I'm staying up on recruiting news, and I'm lurking on boards. Like, that's just how I'm made. But I appreciate you pointing that out. It's one of the things that my buddy, Jerry Ostrowski, always used to give me such shade for, but also in a loving way. He's like, RJ, you have no business remembering all of these names. I'm like, I know. I was just remarking about how I'm going to miss talking about Ronnie Bass, talking about Sunshine, talking about Trevor Lawrence. And yet here we are. We're going to find some new stars. Let me see. Oh, Eaker. I'm going to mess up your last name, Eaker. I'm going to attempt it, though. Aguirre. Watching you from Spain, RJ. Big fan right here since 2018. So happy for your progress, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, homie. That means a lot to me. Let's see. Do you think there will be a few Big 12 teams that make it to the playoffs? Not a few. One. Just one. There's a number of reasons why I think this is. The first one is Oklahoma is the only team that people think is good enough to make the playoff because Oklahoma has won the last 6 Big 12 championships, so it's always in their brain. Remember, there are people that are doing the rankings. The other is that the Big 12 is a 10-team league. You're not going to have 2 from a 10-team league. Not ever. Right? Yeah. The reason the SEC was able to get Alabama and Georgia in, was able to get teams, multiple teams in, is A, they have 14 teams, and B, we already believe the SEC is the best conference in football, so we lean on it when we don't know what to do. It's the reason why I think you saw Texas A&M finishing like number 5 in the country. I don't think Texas A&M was that much better than Cincinnati last year. I don't believe it. I just think that because they play in the SEC and in the SEC West in particular, they got the benefit of the doubt. It's the same way in which many of y'all are showing up here to try to tell me that Matt Corral is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football. And you can't be one of the 5 best college football players at quarterback if you threw 6 interceptions in one game against Arkansas last year. It's impossible. I will not allow it. You cannot talk me into it. That man threw like 14 interceptions last year. 14. And he had Kenny Yeboah and Elijah Moore out there. And Elijah Moore is an All-American. He had Jerry and Ely behind him. You can't talk me into that. But we give the SEC such a benefit that you end up coming out here telling me about Matt Corral and Ole Miss. Stop it. You coming out here talking to me about Auburn and Bo Nix. Stop it. I think that is what you're going to see. So when we see Texas A&M and Alabama play, people are going to go, that's a game for who's playing in the not just conference championship, but in the national semifinal, right? Because the SEC West is that loaded. See, CV says, RJ, hello from Oklahoma. I mean, I'm from Oklahoma. Appreciate that. LSU, UCLA time. It's at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on Fox on Saturday. So it is up against Georgia Clemson on Big Fox. Make sure I got that right. Yes, I do. No, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Central. But I'm right in that it is on September 4th, and it is up against Clemson, Georgia. Let's see. What else we got in here? Independence Bowl already got a time and a date. Saturday, December 18th on ABC. Just got that email. Very cool. Do you think Eric Gray will be the starting running back? Man, that's a really good question. The short answer is yes. The long answer is right away, I'm not so sure. Marcus Major, still from people that I talk to around the program, is one of the most talented players on that team, and certainly to some people's minds, the most talented tailback in that room. That is not my opinion. That is what I was told. Now, we all know that Kennedy Brooks, when he's healthy and playing, was a walking first down. But he opted out of 2020, so I'm not sure what kind of shape he's in, right? Well, I take that back. I know what kind of shape he's in because he played in the spring, during the spring. I'm not sure where his vision is. I'm not sure that he has all of his football intellect back, that he has all his football instincts back. Eric Gray, we saw what that dude was doing at Tennessee last year, and we saw what he did in the spring game. I think it doesn't really matter who starts at tailback for Oklahoma or anywhere else for that matter. I think unless you got a bell cow back, like Jalen Berger is going to be for Wisconsin or Kyron Williams is going to be for Notre Dame, it doesn't matter because Oklahoma is always going to want to find out which one of its tailbacks is hot and ride that dude and then designate somebody, maybe Marcus Major in this case, to be its closer in the second half of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. Kind of like the preacher man Trey Sermon was for Oklahoma in 2017 and even 2018. Ramondre Stevenson sort of kind of took over that role and really came on strong here to finish the year coming back from his suspension. So that's what I think about it. Let's see. What else we got? Imagine if Texas OU played in the playoff, made the Red River rivalry game look like an exhibition game. it'd be fun. I mean, it's like Alabama, Georgia, right? When they have crossers, it'd be a lot of fun because they play in the SEC championship game. Nobody cares. They play in the national championship game a game later after beating up on the playoff teams. I think it's going to take Oklahoma, and I'm saying Oklahoma because they're the closest to it, winning a national championship to change the perception of the Big 12. And they might do it just in time for conference realignment to begin once again. So it would be a lot of fun. I think OU and Texas are always going to play. They're probably always going to be in the same conference. Like, I would not be surprised to find out the SEC becomes a 16-team league. Actually, I kind of would. Because the Longhorn Network really messes up a lot of that. And that's getting a little bit away from football. But it would be a lot of fun to see OU and Texas play. Let's see. I'm out of the loop. What's the info on the kickoff times? I would just rewind the stream. Because I need to stop doing that. Don't sleep on Mario Williams. Y'all got a special one. No, you right. Mario Williams is going to be up against, I think, Theo Weiss on the outside or Drake Stoops on the inside. Drake Stoops, who was just put on scholarship, playing a little slot receiver for Oklahoma. Man, it's embarrassing what Oklahoma has, especially if you're playing 7-on-7. I mean, you got Austin Stogner out there, too, at 6'6", 245. And he might be Rattler's favorite target in 2021. Jot that part down. You return Braden Williams. You return Jeremiah Hall. My God. Like, you got Mikey Henderson, who could be tailback or fullback. Like, there's some dudes on that offense. And I didn't even mention Jaden Hazelwood. That's how loaded that offense can be. Cody Jackson. I mean, keep going here, man. They're ridiculous. Let's see. Yo, man, stop typing in all caps. Okay? I am not acknowledging any more all caps in the chat. That is screaming for attention. Chill that out. Let's see. Ryan Day is greater than Lincoln Riley. I mean, today he played in a national championship game. Like, that's not a debate right now. Nobody's debating that. As a matter of fact, both of the quarterbacks that Ryan Day has coached at Ohio State were first-round draft picks. I mean, Riley is basically, 2 for 3 on that? With Kyler and Baker going 1 overall and Jalen going in the second round. But I think if you're telling me that Ryan Day is better than Lincoln Riley, I'm going to tell you that pancakes are better than waffles. They're both good. Why do we need to challenge that? Why do you think you need to put that out there? Come on now. Let's see. I don't believe Notre Dame deserved to get into the playoff last year. Well, who the hell should have? A&M got beat. If you get beat, I don't think you should be playing for national championships. Till we find somebody, like, we had something like 7 undefeated teams going into the bowl season last year. Let me see if I can't count these up. We had undefeated Alabama, undefeated Notre Dame. No, we didn't have undefeated Notre Dame. They were a 1-loss team. No, now I think you got a point. Who will we put in there? Cincinnati? BYU, they lost to Coastal. They didn't lose till they got to the Cure Bowl. San Jose State, they didn't lose till they got to, I think it was the Arizona Bowl, the Ball State. I know that the answer that people usually give on this is Texas A&M, and I sort of get it. But I'm not all the way convinced that it should have been them either. Which is how people say there were only 3 good teams, and somebody's got to have that 4th spot to just get rolled up by the 1 seed. But no, it's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. See. Let me see. Marcus Major doesn't look. You haven't seen Marcus Major. You can't even really give an assessment. Like, we haven't seen that dude really run the football. Eric Fry. Where's the thing we don't talk about? If you know, you know. It's over there in my closet. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good way to get blocked in the chat, dog. Don't come at me with the personal attacks. You know, just keep it about football. You can't put A&M in. Well, again, like Robert, who are we gonna put in? Let's see. Cincinnati was more deserving of making the playoff than Texas A&M. I'd make that argument, but I'd be the only person making that argument. Let's see. What else we got in here? if Oklahoma plays in the national championship, do you think you will be who will be their opponent? Man, that's interesting. Right now, I'm inclined to say Clemson, but Clemson might be a 4 seed or even a 1 seed, depending on how people feel about an undefeated Oklahoma team at that time. I think Alabama is always going to be there, but really I'm talking about the SEC champion. So it could be Georgia. And that's, you wouldn't have me turn down nothing but my collar if I got to see Oklahoma play UGA in the national championship game, because Oklahoma fans will be the first folks to tell you there are 2 teams outside of like the normal ones, Texas, Nebraska, whatnot, Oklahoma State, that OU fans absolutely, positively can't stand. One of those teams is Miami, because at one point, Oklahoma was on one hell of a tear. I think between 1986 and 1988, they lost 3 games. 3 games total. All 3 were to Miami. Away, a home, and on a neutral field. Depending on how you feel about the Orange Bowl. Jimmy Johnson loved beating up on Oklahoma with Miami because he got his butt toe up at Oklahoma State, but that's something else because that's Oklahoma State and it's really difficult to recruit there. But Georgia, you know how long I have had to deal with the Rose Bowl? Like, my friends constantly let me know what they feel about the Rose Bowl, and hey, how about that squib kick? And seeing Sam Pittman on that sideline alongside Kirby Smart, and knowing Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm is the dude they lose to with an all-time offense and a defense that just needed to be so-so. If you had the defense that Oklahoma had last year on that 2017 team, you can't tell me they're not playing for a national championship. So I would love nothing more than to see Georgia versus Oklahoma for all the marbles. That would make me so happy, right? Though I'm sure that there's an OU fan of a certain age that can't stand Clemson. Let's see. So give Oklahoma Clemson in the semi, and then give them Georgia in the final. That'd be a lot of fun. It says, go blue, Michigan, salute everyone. Hey, look, Les Toast is over here talking about Michigan, and I'm like, don't lose to Washington in the big house. Especially if Sam Heward is the dude that ends up being the starting quarterback for Washington, a true freshman. A really, really talented true freshman. But don't lose to that man in the big house, because it feels like the big house has been everybody's house here lately. Ask Michigan State whether or not they think the big house is, home base or not. Let's see. What else we got in here. Rattler Gina dominate. What? Who is Gina playing football? I don't see her on the roster. Let's see. Biggest trap game for OU outside of Texas and Iowa State. Texas Christian. Texas Christian. Like, I guess I should say Kansas State, because Oklahoma's 0-2 the last 2 years against Kansas State. So we could talk about that. But I think it's Texas Christian. I'm real scared of Texas Christian if I'm everybody in the Big 12, because nobody expects Texas Christian to be good. But they just put the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award winner into the NFL, and they return Hodges at corner, who's going to be a monster. They just got Shadrack Banks from A&M, who was going to A&M off of North Shore, where he was awesome, to play wide receiver. And he's going to be playing linebacker in Gary Patterson's defense. You got Zach Evans on the other side. So you got the 2 North Shore studs playing at Texas Christian, along with Quentin Johnson on the outside, Tay Barber on the outside. And I'm putting a lot of trust into Gary Patterson's defense as well. But my God, that North Shore team in the last 3 years has been dominant. I did a ditty on TJ Finley transferring to Auburn, and I've raised this point. Bo Nix is not who I think he's competing with. It's Demetrius Davis, who was the quarterback at North Shore. Demetrius Davis, through 3 years, had better stats than Vince Young, coming out of a top-level Texas high school football program. They were monsters, and he was the most monster of them. That's what Zach Evans in the backfield and Shadrack Banks playing wide receiver. That is what you have. I'm scared to death of Texas Christian. Scared to death of them. Now Dave Aranda and Baylor's defense has had Oklahoma's number, so they ought to be better, but they're breaking in a new coordinator offensively. So, yeah, get past Kansas State, beat Texas Christian, don't get beat down by Texas or Iowa State, and I think you're golden. But, JR makes this point on the podcast, little sneak peek, that there's only one team that Oklahoma should think that it's going to beat going into the Big 12 season. And I'll let him be the person to tell you on Monday on the number one ranked show. Let's see. The Kylie matrix at the end of the season was Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, A&M 3, Louisiana 4, and 5 Ball State, 6 Coastal. Seems like potential subs for Notre Dame. Again, the Kylie matrix did not pick the college football playoff. A bunch of people in suits in a boardroom did. This is why I believe we're wrong to let people in suits tell us who plays for national championships. Have a for real 16-team playoff. Let your conference champions get automatic bids. Have 6 at-large berths so you can get your little Notre Dame in if you want to. And then let's go play ball. That's a winner for me. That's an absolute winner for me. Because that looks like every other sport too, including the NFL. Now, be the person in this chat telling me you don't watch the NFL. Go ahead, you liar. Let me see. How come when a West Coast team like Oregon is winning the big games last few seasons, drop so many ranking spots when they lose a regular season? Because you lost to Auburn. You lost to Auburn on a fluke. That's why. Because we can't trust you. That's why. Because when Oregon goes into the Fiesta Bowl, they get ran by Iowa State, who lost to Louisiana, because we can't trust you. Like, I had to do my post top 25 spring, right? And I'm looking at Oregon. I'm going, which game is it? Is it Ohio State? Because I think nobody's going to get mad about that one. But, like, if y'all mess around and lose to Oregon State in what used to be called the Civil War, how are we going to feel about that? Like for real. How are we supposed to rank you highly when you are dropping those games? You can't drop those games, man. You got to win those games. That's why. I want Oregon to be good because I want the West Coast to matter. I want the Pac-12 to matter. The last Pac-12 team to make the college football playoff is Washington. Many people can't even tell me who the quarterback was. It's Jake Browning. The last Pac-12 team to play in a national title game is Oregon. But that was when Marcus Mariota was quarterback, and we're talking about like a Chip Kelly offense. Come on, man. The last Pac-12 team to win a national championship is Pete Carroll's USC. Like, what do you... Come on now. Be real here. That's what this is about. Be real here. Let me see. Let me see. Minka Fitzpatrick and Trey Norwood would be the best safety duo in NFL in 2-3 years. Trey got to make the team first. Call me after Norwood makes the team. Norwood makes the team, we can talk. Call me after he makes the team. See, the Oregon-Auburn game had me angry. I lost $20 on that game. You sound like that dude in or that not that dude, that woman in I got the Shane Falco jersey right over there. The Replacements. I lost a lot of money on that Sugar Bowl. Kansas State makes me nervous, even though they're not that good, just fundamentally sound. No, they let you beat yourself. That's what they let you do. They let you beat yourself. Let's see what else we got in here. Let's see. Ooh, we got kickoff time for Tulane in Oklahoma. Willie Fritz in them. So Oklahoma season opener at Tulane kicks off at 11 a.m. on the 3-letter network. Hey, on ABC. That's going to be interesting. Thursday and yeah, okay. So we got 11 a.m. kickoffs for Oklahoma, like all the way through. Oh, 11 a.m. Nebraska, 11 a.m. Tulane. Let's get it. Let's go. Also, that means that at least with those 2 games, OU's not playing a pay-per-view game yet. Which, if you're an OU fan, you gotta feel pretty good about that. Knowing you get to see Oklahoma Tulane on network television as opposed to having to pay $50 to watch it, $60 to watch it. Thanks for doing these, RJ. Great time. Hey, Drew, I appreciate you coming through. I was looking for a reason, quite honestly, to do a live stream because I come from a radio background, as many of you know, hosting my own show locally and then national show at the 4-letter network, and I really enjoy the format. That's why I think the podcasts are getting longer and longer. Let's see. What else we got in here? Well, the problem with the Pac-12 is that everyone beats up on each other. I mean, we don't have that same problem in Oklahoma in the Big 12. Don't have that problem in the SEC. They beat up on each other. Don't have that problem in the ACC. North Carolina, Miami somehow make Clemson look good. Come on now. Virginia played in the Orange Bowl a couple years ago. Come on now. Tell the truth, shame the devil. It ain't because y'all beating up on each other. How do you think Stroud will fare? I've been avoiding talking about C.J. Stroud as if he is the starting quarterback because, yes, I'm getting more data to think that that is the case. But again, C.J. ain't thrown a pass in college. That's the only knock I have against him, but the same knock I have against every Ohio State quarterback. None of them have thrown a pass in college. We will see. We will see. Do you feel like Alabama would kind of, sort of like LSU last year? No, because I think Alabama might look like they did in 2019, to be honest, which is an 11-win team that beat up on Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. That ain't too shabby. Like, what this is for me is a year in which everybody else needs to take advantage of Nick Saban and Alabama doing the closest thing to rebuilding that they're going to do, which is replace the offensive coordinator, replace the starting quarterback, replace basically the core of your wide receivers, and replace perhaps your most prolific tailback of all time. If you can't take advantage of Alabama being down this year, you can't do it at all. And I think that's what LSU did in 2019. They took advantage of Alabama being down that year. Like Tua Tagovailoa getting hurt, that sucks for the sport. But also, like, you're looking at LSU gets past Alabama, and the way they got past Alabama, we're going, okay, Georgia can't hang because they couldn't. You know, you need to be starting somebody else at quarterback. So, somebody, I don't know, maybe you could have signed somebody from the state of Georgia that year. Maybe Justin Fields. He might have been a good look for Georgia in 2019. Who knows? Maybe if they had a Justin Fields, they might actually have a shot against LSU, and maybe they're playing for a national championship. Maybe they bring home their first national championship since like 1981. Who knows? It'd have been, real interesting to see if they could have been able to get a guy like Justin Fields. You went with Jake Fromm over Justin Fields! God! Man says I want the smoke from Bama. And everybody says they want the smoke from Bama, but don't nobody want the smoke from Bama. Let's see. Dude says it's tough to be a Michigan fan. I mean, it wasn't tough in 97, 98. Whenever it was that Michigan and Lloyd Carr and Charles Woodson were doing the damn thing. Let's see. Says Travion Henderson starts game one. Y'all really need to stop focusing on running backs being the starters because somebody else is going to get carries. Master Teague is probably going to be the dude because he's the leader in that running back room. But Travion's going to get shot. Evan Pryor's going to get a shot. Marcus Crowley probably going to get a shot. Like, you got dudes out there that can tote the rock. It's fine. Western Carolina will be a pay-per-view game. Man, this is why I say you need to go to a 16-team playoff. Because the people that say that college football's regular season is going to take a dip if we expand the playoff, yeah, okay, because you're the dude watching Alabama, New Mexico State, I guess. Alabama, Western Carolina. Mercer versus Auburn. Savannah State versus Florida. Come on, man. Chill out with that. You will lie. Let me see. What else we got in here? How long are we going? We've been going for about an hour. I think I'm going to shut it down here in about 2 minutes, about 1 minute. So let's see if we get one more really good question in here. Can you predict the toughest team that may be hard to beat this season, or you have to watch the game to determine? Louisiana is going to be tough for Texas. I'm out there on that. Arkansas is just going to be tough, period, because I think it's a better football team than its record was last year, and they return a lot, right? I'm trying to think who else is going to be real tough and nobody you want to see other than like Texas Christian, who I already highlighted. I'm trying to think. Central Florida. UCF's going to be a monster. UCF might win the American because Gus Malzahn got Dylan Gabriel coming back. He's got Big Cat Bryant transferring in. He's managed to secure a visit from a 5-star in Jeremiah Alexander just to come take a look, which I think is a tremendous win for UCF. And you're in the largest public university in Florida, and you get to recruit the state of Florida. Central Florida, I think, is going to be tough, not just this year, but in the years to come. And when we expand the playoff, I expect Central Florida to be one of those teams that is playing for national championships, even though they won one in 2017. I think that is 100% it. All right. If you like the channel, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Also, you can subscribe to the #1 ranked show via whatever podcast platform it is that you like. We come out with videos with episodes every Monday across all platforms, and you can go and favorite it on Fox Sports, on the Fox Sports app, if you don't want to miss anything. I'm writing over there. I wrote a piece about Clay Helton going into the transfer portal and building his roster that way, to the question about whether or not USC is underrated. They played in the Pac-12 championship game last year. No, they're not underrated. They just need to win that game. But they have dudes in Drake London. They signed the #1 player in the country in Corey Foreman. There's a lot of people that think that Keaton Slovis is due to have a big year. You got Brew McCoy over there. You got Malcolm Epps coming in. Keontae Ingram's over there. Xavier Alford is playing some safety for them. They're going to be okay. Chris Steele at cornerback. And I talked with Clay Helton at length about these things on the #1 Ranked Show podcast earlier this week, so go check that out. All right. That is it for me. Deuces.